What's up, guys? Welcome to another Wizard101 video. So I think first of all, before we start, I just want to talk about how in every video my poster is in a new location. It's because it keeps falling. Okay, so if anybody has noticed that, please don't talk about it. Okay, anyways, so for today, we are going to be doing kind of like a slop video. I don't know, guys. So we're doing a Wizard101 tier list based off of difficulty, okay? This is my own personal rankings, apart from, like, okay, like, if you feel differently, that's fine. You're allowed to feel that way. This is just my own personal interpretation of how difficult the schools are to play, specifically in PvE. Alright, so on the tier list, as you can see, we have hardest all the way down to easiest school. I think I might honestly have some hot takes in here. But yeah, if you don't agree, that's fine. You don't have to agree. This is my own opinion, okay? So that's like the disclaimer, okay? So the first school that we have is balance. And this is like, I don't know, I guess this is assuming just like in general. Like this isn't like hardest like to solo on. This is just like gonna be like in general if you play this school in PvE, like assuming that maybe you're like newer to the game. You know what I mean? So the first school that we have is balance. And balance honestly is one that I would say is probably going to be up there in hardest, right? Like, assuming you are like a newer player, this is like maybe your first or second school, I would say that this is probably like, balance is probably going to be the hardest for like a couple reasons, right? So first off, balance is just such a like unique school. It's a very unique school in the sense that like the play style and the way that it plays through the game, it's just very different from like the other schools. Like the other schools are kind of like typical, like because I feel like the Rochambeau wheel with balance being in the middle, it's a bit different. For like for example, if it's your first playthrough and you're in Marleybone, have fun because it's gonna suck, right? Because they have no prisms, they have no they do have a blade, but they have no prisms, they have no shields, like balanced shield, so it's a bit more challenging, I would say. But honestly, in terms of like difficulty, out of all the schools, I would probably put it in hardest, just because it's like, you know what I'm saying, okay? um yeah, I think I would definitely put it in hardest, even though I think it's obviously possible to play on a balance if it's your first playthrough or even your second playthrough. I think it's, like, obviously possible. It's not like none of the schools are, like, so hard to the point where you're going to, like, really be struggling and not be able to, like, play the game. I don't think that's, like, even possible. I'm pretty sure on every single school in the game, you can play it and you can pretty much, like, really solo most of the content, and it's not going to be that hard. But in terms of ranking them from hardest or easiest to hardest, I would say that balance would have to be probably the hardest school, just like to play in general, assuming that you're a newer player. Alright, death. Death, I would probably have to put death in easiest. In easiest or in relatively easy. But honestly, I think I would put it in easiest just because the thing about death is like the drains are just so OP. Like death is definitely the most OP school. Obviously, we all know that death is the most OP school in the entire game. And it is especially easy for like a newer player, or like honestly, it's so easy for anybody. It's easy for everybody. You can just literally play a death and have no struggles, and you could probably solo the entire game like on your first or second playthrough, like easily, with relative ease at least. Because it's just so, it's kind of brain dead, I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty much a brain dead school. The only thing that I think would put it in relatively easy is that if this is your first ever playthrough and you pick death, you might be struggling a little bit with the fact that you don't have an AoE until I think level 52 is when you get Scarecrow. I'm pretty sure it's level 52, and I think that might be a bit of a struggle, but like overall, well, we can even just fact check this. Death AoE Scarecrow. Let's see what. Oh, level 48. Okay, so you get it at level 48, which is pretty damn late to get an AoE. I think by that point you're like late Mushu or maybe even early Dragonspire at that point. So I think that's why I would put it in honestly relatively easy because of the fact that you don't get an AoE and by that point you're facing like triple fights and so that can be kind of annoying and hard, but like I don't think overall you're going to be really struggling like just playing through death. I think it's like a super easy school because you do damage and heal yourself simultaneously, which is just OP. So I think I'll put it in relatively easy. I don't really know if it's like easiest. We might bump it down to easiest depending on the rest of the schools, but like yeah, so I think relatively easy is a pretty good spot. It's pretty safe. So next we have fire. Where would I put fire? So I think for your first or second playthrough, if you pick fire, I think maybe it's in kinda hard. As someone who was doing a fire playthrough, I haven't gotten very far in it. I think I'm still first arc. Um, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't put it in kind of hard. Maybe I would put it in like relatively easy because it's not like a hard school to play. Like I feel like there's nothing like particularly challenging about like fire. I think I would put it in kind of hard just because like just well, for one, you also don't get an AoE until a bit later in the game. And it's less OP than Death, right? If Death is going to be in relatively easy, then I feel like Fire has to go in kind of hard. Just because both struggle from the same issue is that, like, you don't really get an AoE. Let me check. What level do you get your Fire AoE? Oh, well, you actually get it at level 22, so that's not really that late. So actually, maybe I would put it in relatively easy, just because like you're not really waiting too long to get AoE. You get it in like what is level 22? Like freaking like early Marleybone, right? Early Marleybone, you get an AoE or late Krokotopia. So actually, I would put it in relatively easy. Maybe like if there was like a mid level, I would put it there, but like because there's not, I'll just it can stay in relatively easy, because there's nothing like hard about it, right? DOTs Fire Elf is just a very good attack overall. You're not going to be really struggling at all. The HP is pretty good, and it's the second highest damage in the entire game, and you have like relatively decent HP. So honestly, I would say that it's relatively easy. I think that's going to be the final spot. Ice, this is controversial, but I'm honestly going to put Ice in easiest. I know this is kind of crazy. Um, well, yeah, okay, I know this is crazy, right? This is, no, 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 it can't go in easiest. It can go relatively easy, and I think I'm going to move Death down to easiest, right? But I think Ice is easier than Fire, right? Even though Ice and Fire play very similarly, Ice and Fire do play very, very similarly, but I still would say that Ice is actually easier than Fire, because even though you're doing slightly less damage, well, you're doing kind of a lot less damage, actually, you just have so much health that like it kind of doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like you're never going to really be like on death's doorstep as an Ice if you just play decently well. Because the thing about Ice is that you have so much health and a good amount of resist and you're still doing damage. So at least like early game, I don't think you're going to be struggling at all. I think once you hit like arc 2, you might start like struggling a bit just because you're doing like you have such low damage output that like the extra HP is like kind of going to be like a bit negligible because the enemies are just like doing a good amount of damage on you, at least the bosses anyways. But I would have to say that Ice is just so easy to play that it's like whatever. All right, so next we have Storm, right? Well, this is not even in order. I just looked at Storm. But Storm is going to have to go in challenging. My first character was a Storm. And I solo pretty much the whole game. I don't have like a duo or someone that I really play with. Or like a carry for the most part. So, I pretty much soloed through the entire like game. And I would have to say that Storm is pretty challenging. It's pretty hard, but it's super fun. Like, I think that's the trade-off, because you hit so hard, but you really are a glass cannon. Like, you have no HP throughout the entire game. When I played on ice, I couldn't believe that I already had like over 1,000 HP in Crocotopia, because like I feel like I didn't get 1,000 HP on my Storm until I was in like Mushu. You just have so little HP, but you do so much damage. And you don't have a very late AoE either. So I feel like it's challenging in terms of like soloing through the game, and just like in terms of general difficulty, it's going to be a lot harder because you're going to be dying a lot. So you're going to have to be resetting a lot of boss fights. Specifically in regards to boss fights, you're going to have to be resetting a lot on the boss fights if you die, because you will die a lot. That's just the drawbacks of playing on a Storm, is that you absolutely will die a lot. There's kind of no getting around that. But like overall, I wouldn't put it even in hardest, because it's not like hard. It's just like you're going to be dying a lot, but in turn you'll be doing so much damage that like you pretty much are going to be able to one-shot most of the like enemies in the game, at least in the like early game. Well, honestly, throughout the whole game, you'll be like pretty much one-shotting all the like small enemies and elite enemies, and then like bosses, you're gonna be struggling a bit more on bosses, but like you won't be struggling at all on any minions or anything. So yeah, I would put it on challenging, but it's not like that hard. Alright, so next is life. I would probably have to put life on easiest as well, along with death, just because it's like you will never die, and you do decent damage. You know what I mean? You do more damage than an ice, with relatively similar HP to an ice. So I feel like you would have to say that life, just based on that, you'd have to say that life is like easiest, or not easiest, but easier, right? Just because you do more damage than an ice, but you have like slightly less HP than an ice, right? And if ice isn't relatively easy, then life is also going to be relatively easy. However, the only thing about life, I would say, that is similar to death is I believe you have a late AoE. Let's see, what level do you get? Yeah, you don't get your AoE until late. So, that would be probably the same drawback as death as well, is that they're both pretty OP, but like you're not getting your AoE that you need until like a lot later in the game, until like early Dragonspire. So that is definitely like going to be a struggle, especially since, you know what? Maybe I would put it in relatively easy. Nah. I think I'm gonna put it in easiest, because you're just not dying at all. You're just not dying. Especially if you don't solo it. If you're playing with other people, it has to be an easiest, because it's just OP. Especially if you're in a duo or like playing with other people, it's easiest. It's easiest without a doubt. So last one we have Myth, and I think I'll put Myth in kinda hard, right? Myth's like 7-pip AoE is just broken. I think Myth overall, just like to play, is like harder because you're so neglected. Like everybody knows that Myth is just such a like bad school that it's like you probably will be struggling throughout the game, just because like Myth is not a good school to play, like in general, right? And that's for like a couple reasons. So like your entire gimmick, both of your gimmicks are just useless. Like they're just completely useless. Half of the enemies, I think every boss enemy in the whole game is stun immune. So that's like an entire like part of your kit that is just like useless. Like it means nothing. It does nothing, right? You literally can't stun half of the enemies in the entire game. So over half of the enemies, any enemy that matters, you can't stun them. So it's like that's useless. And then the only thing that I would say is pretty useful is the fact that they double hit. That's pretty good because it eliminates the need for shields. But honestly, in PvE, I don't know like how useful that is, because enemies kind of stop shielding themselves very much like later in the game. So I think early game that's pretty useful. And then the third like most important part of your entire kit, this is Myth School identity, is that minions do nothing. Minions are useless in the entire game. You're never going to be using a minion. Like, the minions are so bad. They're so bad for so many reasons. And, like, I'm not going to cover all the reasons why minions are just ass. Because, like, there's countless other videos, like, covering that exact topic, right? But, like, Myth is just so ass that it's, like, not, it's hard to play, honestly. I mean, but it's not so hard because you're doing decent damage and you have a decent amount of HP. So it's not like hard, it's just kind of hard because like most of your entire school identity is just useless and does nothing. So yeah, I would say Myth is going to be kind of hard because it's not like impossible to play. For like your first or second playthrough, it's just that like most of your entire school identity is like pointless in the game. So there's that. But yeah, so I think this is the definitive Wizard 101 school tier list. If you disagree, then you need help. Yeah. So I think I'm happy with this. I think if anything, I would probably move balance lower and maybe bump up storm to be in. Nah, maybe I would do that because balance is just so like hard to play actually. So I think I'll keep it like this. I think this is good. Let me know if you guys disagree and the reasons why you disagree in the comments. I feel like this is a pretty decent tier list. Let me know if I got anything wrong, or if you have a different opinion. But yeah, I hope this video was at least entertaining. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.